and I can't deny the fact that you like me right now. You like
Our award of the week for episode 84 will be going to women for proving yet again they are just as qualified as anyone to do anything, which might sound like insulting, but it shouldn't be. What is insulting is there are people who feel that women aren't qualified to do certain things or say certain things, especially now in 2022, in the 21st century, in today's day and age. And the first example of a woman proving that she's just as qualified to do anything as anyone is Mina Keems. Now, I've talked about several times on this show where there are women who are far more intelligent than men and have far more input and actually bring something to a conversation about sports than most men. One of those people would be Mina Keems. She's regularly on NFL Today on ESPN, and she's been critical of Jimmy Garoppolo, who is the current quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, and for which a former San Francisco 49er quarterback, Jeff Garcia, criticized her, saying, oh, regular role stuff. Oh, she's never thrown a football. She's never played in the NFL. How is she qualified to say this and that and such or such? Which is interesting because there are a lot of NFL quote unquote experts and reporters who have never played on the NFL who have probably in the past celebrated Jeff Garcia in some way, shape, or some way, shape, or form, or have been critical in some way, shape, or form, where he's not going out of his way to criticize as he has Mina Keems. And I say that she proved that she's qualified to give that criticism because what she said was proven right this past Sunday in the NFC Championship game, where in which the San Francisco 49ers essentially played a home game in SoFi Stadium in LA against the Rams in the Rams own stadium with probably 60-40 49ers fans in attendance. So it was not a hostile environment. And with the game on the line, a 3-point game where essentially Jimmy Garoppolo would just have to get his team to at least the 45-yard line to kick a field goal to tie it, to take it into overtime. Jimmy Garoppolo threw an interception and sealed the fate of the San Francisco 49ers. And they lost the game. The Rams are headed to the Super Bowl. San Francisco and Jimmy Garoppolo are headed home. But Jeff Garcia, who is mostly known to people like me for being the guy that probably sullied Terrell Owens' career stats because he was not a good quarterback at all during Terrell Owens' first few years in the NFL. Other than that, he's known for taking the Eagles to the he's known for taking the Eagles to the playoffs during his time as an NFL journeyman before being replaced by, I believe, people like Corey Cole, and I don't know. He's just very forgettable in the grand scheme of the NFL. And my second example of women proving that they are qualified to do anything isn't even exactly specifically a certain woman in particular, but Tommy Lahren, right wing princess, went out of her way to criticize Joe Biden's decision and full blown statement that, or declaration that, when Stephen Breyer, current Supreme Court justice, retires, he is planning on replacing him with a black woman. Throughout history, it's been essentially all black men until a white woman, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, God rest her soul. She became a Supreme Court justice. Thurgood Marshall, he became a Supreme Court justice. Not a big fan of this guy, but Clarence Thomas, he became a Supreme Court justice. And Sonia Sotomayor, who's near and dear to me as a fellow Bronxite. Grew up here in the Bronx, went to Cardinal Spellman, became a Supreme Court justice, saved baseball, some would say, and eventually one of Trump's appointees, Amy Cooper Barrett, who was super duper less qualified than most of the other judges on the Supreme Court justice. She was selected, but it's mostly been white men. So this declaration he was going to choose or nominate only black women was pretty bold, but also well needed. And Tommy Lahren criticism was that Kamala Harris essentially is a failure. So if he does pick a black woman, like she would also be a failure, which is some idiotic logic because you know what? In any position of authority, they've all been dominated by straight white males throughout history. Ones that succeeded, ones that failed. So if the idea is that if one failure was able to be in a position and fail, that any other person like that person would also fail. If that was the case, then when the first white man failed, then they would have just stopped there. And clearly they didn't. And that's not to call Kamala Harris a failure. I'm not a big fan of her. I'm not a big fan of Joe Biden at this point either. But I will say it's only been roughly a little, a few days more than a year into their administration. So time will tell whether or not they're failures. Are they heading that way? Probably. Will they keep that way? Probably not. But to say that if one black woman that you've perceived to be a failure means that every black woman would be a failure is very short sighted and very ignorant. But God forbid somebody tell her that. And that's why I'm giving Women Award of the Week because they have proven every time that they've been given an opportunity that they are more than capable as anyone to fulfill these positions. We've seen women in virtually every facet of life. And more recently we're seeing them in male dominated sports or sports that are mostly male populated. Like there's NFL coaches who are women, there are MLB coaches who are women. The Yankees just hired a female manager, the first female manager in the minor leagues. So women are more than capable, if not sometimes even more capable than some of the men in their own professions. And that's why I'm giving them award of the week. But honorable mention for this week, first time in a long time, goes to ASAP Rocky for doing something a lot of men dreamed of, which is knocking up Rihanna. She's on her way to being a billionaire. My thoughts and prayers go out to Drake and Chris Brown in these moments because I know they are hurting. But speaking of her being a billionaire, I did order some underwear, some boxers from Fenty, and that was like 3 weeks ago, and they haven't arrived yet. So I'm just hoping that they come before the baby does. But God bless them. It's cool. It's awesome. Not as big of a fan of ASAP Rocky as I used to be, but Rihanna's always been a pretty awesome human being, and West Indian, fellow West Indian. So shout out to them, and our husband award of the week.